All right, let's jump right into it. Today we're going to talk about something huge for a lot of people in Spain. How do you find a stable, legal way to live and work here? Well, we're going to explore how, believe it or not, a construction site might just hold the key.
You know, if you're living in Spain without papers, this question, it's probably on your mind all the time. It's the key to everything, right? To stability, to building a real future. So where do you even start looking for an answer?
Well, you might find this a little surprising, but for literally thousands of people, the answer isn't buried in some complex legal document. It's right here, on a construction site. It's a sector that has quietly become one of the most real, most accessible gateways to getting your papers in order.
Okay, so let's break down exactly how and why this works, because it's not just about getting a job. It's about this really unique moment where economics, the law, and government policy are all lining up perfectly.
So first things first, let's get to the foundation of this whole opportunity. This isn't just happening by accident. It's being driven by a massive labor gap. Simply put, Spain is building like crazy, and it desperately needs workers.
Look, it really just boils down to basic economics. Spain's construction industry is booming. New houses, new buildings everywhere. But at the very same time, the local workforce is getting older, and there just aren't enough new workers to fill those jobs. That creates a huge ongoing shortage, and that shortage creates a huge opportunity.
So how does this labor shortage actually turn into a path to residency for someone? Well, it all comes down to three specific keys. Think of them like three pillars that hold up this entire process.
Let's dive into the first one. And really, this is the engine behind everything. It all starts with demand.
The sheer, relentless demand for skilled workers is what makes this whole thing possible. And we're not just talking about any old job. We're talking about very specific roles that the country has officially said it needs help filling.
Now, what's so interesting here is that this isn't just a random list of jobs. These roles, electricians, plumbers, crane operators, they're often on the government's official list of hard-to-fill occupations. That means the government itself is saying, hey, we need people with these skills, and we can't find enough of them here. That official recognition, it's a total game changer.
All right, let's move on to key number 2. Because having a skill that's in demand is one thing, but you need an actual, official, legal way to use that to your advantage.
And this is where the law comes in. The specific legal tool we're talking about here is called Arraigo Laboral. Now, that basically translates to labor routes, and it's a piece of immigration law that feels like it was almost designed for this exact situation.
So, what is Arraigo Laboral? Well, it's a permit. It gives you residency and the right to work for a year, and you can renew it. To get it, you have to prove two things. First, that you've lived in Spain for at least 2 years, and second, that you've worked for at least 6 months. And here is the most important part. That work could have been off the books or informal. The whole point of the law is to help people move from the gray market into the official one.
So when you boil it all down, the process is about these two things. Prove you've been here for 2 years and prove you've worked for 6 months. And that proof can be anything from payslips and bank transfers to even officially reporting a past employer for exploitation.
And that brings us to the third and final key, the thing that really pours gasoline on this fire and makes it all happen even faster.
This isn't something that's just happening by itself. The Spanish government is actively making it easier. You can see a clear trend in their policies. They are moving towards regularization, especially in sectors like construction, where they need the workers.
And you can see it right here. This isn't a fluke. It's part of a bigger strategy. In the past, Spain has had these huge amnesties that really helped construction workers. Just in 2025, they made it easier for companies to hire non-EU workers. And then there's the big one coming in 2026.
So get this, the government is planning a massive, extraordinary regularization process for 2026. They're aiming to legalize up to 500,000 people who are already living here. A huge number of those are expected to be people working in sectors just like construction. I mean, 500,000. Just let that number sink in.
Okay, so we've talked about the why and how it all works. Now let's get practical. What do you actually need to do to get ready for this? What should be on your checklist?
All right, first, and this is non-negotiable, you need a clean criminal record, both here in Spain and back home. Second, you have to prove you've been living here without any long breaks for at least 2 years. And third, you need either a formal job offer from a legitimate company or that proof of a past working relationship we just talked about for Arraigo Laboral.
You know, to really put this into perspective, just think about another way to get residency you might have heard of. The golden visa. That's a path for the wealthy. You have to invest a ton of money. This construction path, it's a pathway through labor. It's based on your skills and your work, not on how much money you have in the bank. That makes it so much more accessible to so many more people.
Now, before we wrap up, we've got to be realistic. This all sounds amazing, and it is an incredible opportunity. The reward, legal residency, is life-changing. But it's not a walk in the park. There are definitely challenges and risks involved.
And this quote right here, it really hits the nail on the head. Even though this path to legalization exists, working informally is always risky. The goal, the absolute #1 priority, has to be using this opportunity to get a formal contract as fast as you can. That's what protects you and secures your future.
So, all this leaves us with a big final question to think about. For Spain, and for the hundreds of thousands of people who are literally building its future, is this system, this kind of informal gateway, really a sustainable solution in the long run? And is it a truly just path for immigrants? It's a tough one, and the answer is going to shape how Spain builds its society, one person at a time. Thanks for joining me.